Namaste and welcome to episode 5 of volume 1, where we continue to reflect on Deivathin Kural, the voice of God, uh, compiled by R. Ganapati and containing the essence of the discourses of the Paramacharya Kanchi, Sri Chandrasekhar. In the previous episodes, we've had 4 episodes prior to this. We discussed why Ganapati is the first of the Devas and also touched upon some key aspects of Advaita Vedanta, with special emphasis on clarifying some misconceptions with regard to Advaita, including the uh, clearer understanding of what constitutes Maya in the scheme of Advaita Vedanta. The current episode also comes under the same section on Advaita, though it speaks of a different topic. And in this episode, we reflect on two aspects that pose a challenge to all those who are on the path towards realizing the divinity within themselves. The first of these challenges is if all life is divine and all life is indeed yoga, then why is it so difficult for us to perceive this within the depths of our being? That's a question that kind of most people ask. It's very easy to speak of it, but very difficult to experience it. And just making a show of piety, it really does not matter. Therefore, the question that we need to ask is, do we really feel it in the unfathomable depths of our being? If we don't feel it, then what is this experiential state that we are talking about? And what use is it talking about it if it cannot be experienced by us? The second question is, if there is indeed an all pervading unity that forms the substratum, the foundation to all of the perceived diversity and differences around us, then why is it that we are unable to realize this unity or even get a glimpse of it? And the Paramacharya says that we do not perceive or experience this unity because our chitta or the manas or the consciousness, or in simple terms, that's the mind or the mind stuff, is like a mirror that is coated with dirt. And in such a mirror, what will the image reflected be on such a mirror? How will it look like? Or perhaps we could think of the mind as a mirror that is swaying and shaking, and all one can see at best is a distorted image. The mirror of the mind is unclean and dirty, filled with impurities, and is also shaky. And this is true of many of our minds, covered with dirt and shaky. So what hope do we then have of realizing that's true? That is the question that the Paramacharya poses. Uh, to think of another example, if we were asked to hold a rod in our hand for 15 minutes, not a very heavy rod obviously, wouldn't we be able to hold it? We would be able to hold it. However, if we were challenged with concentrating on one thought for 1 minute, or even 30 seconds, or maybe even 5 seconds, would it be able to? Would we be able to hold it? That is the crux of the problem, says Paramacharya. We are able to hold on to a solid physical object, but the moment we close our eyes, 1,000 thoughts rush into our mind, and we are simply blown away. This is why the wise say that there is little difference between a deranged man and a man with an uncontrolled mind. If mind control is the criterion, then most of us would be categorized as mad. In Tulsidasa's Hanuman Chalisa, the first two lines of the Doha are relevant to this discussion, even before the Doha actually starts. He says, Shri Guru Charana Saroj Raj Nijaman Mukur Sudhari Bharanau Raghubar Bhimala Jasu Jodayak Falichar. Meaning, I take the dust from the lotus feet of the Guru and clean the mirror of my mind. Only then can I speak of and realize the glory of Sri Ramachandra, the crown jewel of the Raghu dynasty. And then the Hanuman Chalisa begins. When we sit back and reflect on it, we realize that we are limited only by our physical body. The mind, of course, is unlimited. You can physically be here, but the mind can be traveling to some remote corner of the earth. The limitlessness of the mind is both a problem as well as an advantage. There are times when you want to rein it in, but can't because the mind seems to have a mind of its own. As time goes on, you also realize that what you really want is not so much a free mind, but rather freedom from the mind itself. Because more often than not, it is the mind that seems to shackle us. It is also well established that the body and the mind are intimately connected as well, which is why most diseases and disorders are psychosomatic. That which affects the body affects the mind, and when the mind is affected, its effects are felt in the body as well. Patanjali notes in his Yoga Sutras, Yogascha Chitta Vritti Nirodha. This statement can be interpreted in at least two ways or in two slightly different ways. One, that the state of yoga, that is, that state of union or unity, depends on the tranquility of the chitta or the consciousness. And the second way to look at it is that yoga is the means to attain tranquility in the chitta. Equipoise and equanimity are consequences of tranquility. It is in this conundrum that the grand vision of life in the Vedas starts to make sense, where the triune of Satyam, Ritam, Bruhat are seen as fundamental essence of everything. Satyam and Bruhat are the two great bookends, absolute truth and absolute infinity. And Rhythm is the praxis or the practice that bridges the two bookends. In that sense, rhythm is the book of life, the root for English words like ritual and rhythm, both of which are essentially about establishing patterns and habits to life that define how we would live it. This is why Dharma accords such importance to praxis or practice. Because as life slips away like fine sand through the fingers, praxis and patterns and habits and routines help us come to grips with the pace of life. Praxis is the starting point. Consistent and relentless praxis morphs into patterns, and patterns help to slow down the march of time. Again, in the conception of Satyam Ritam Bruhat, Satyam is often translated simply as truth or absolute truth. When we start to ask what this means, we realize the difficulty that this question poses, because those who have found it cannot speak of it in terms that can be understood by those who are seeking to get there. It is a lived experience that needs to be atomized to the level of the individual consciousness. Furthermore, if Satyam is the object of attainment, how does one start the process? Where does one begin? Therefore, it makes far greater sense to see that Satyam actually refers to that which is changeless, unshakable, and timeless, auspicious and pristine, Achala, Sthira, Ananta, and Anadi, Shivam, and Shubham. Therefore, it is this state of existence that we seek. And if it is this state of existence that we seek, then how do we get there? Because while Satyam is one bookend, the other is the infinite vastness of Bruhat, the universal macrocosm. Where can one locate the Satyam in this incomprehensible vastness of eternal space? And this is where rhythm or practice or praxis comes into play. That which bridges the incomprehensible vastness with the eternal truth is rhythm. That which sets the rhythm and flow of life. Praxis, tradition, rituals are all practiced to raise the individual resonance to the level of the universal resonance. To be in yoga or union with life and also the act of living. Sri Aurobindo captures the interplay of this triune in evocative prose. And I quote, Vijnana is rhythm, is knowledge perfectly self arranged and self guided, spontaneously self arranged in perception and in action, spontaneously self fulfilled through the law of inevitable manifestation of the truth in its own nature and by its own force. It is the faultless instrument of an unerring omnipotence and omniscience. Satyam, Ritam, Bruhat, the true, the right, the large, describes God in his being of pure ideal knowledge and self efficiency. Human life and being will then be molded into the forms of Satyam, Ritam, Bruhat. For man knowing himself and the world, man will work out his life spontaneously as the sun moves or the oak tree grows, by the force of the idea working out the swabhava, own nature, own or proper becoming. Unquote. This is why the Hindu Dharma speaks of divinizing all work to a level where that which is adrishta, that which is unseen, becomes drishta, seen. This is why the seers of the ancient times were called drishtas, those who saw, those who could see the truth. This is also why adrishta is loosely used to be in luck, because surely you should be extremely lucky to be one of those drishtas blessed with the drishti of that supreme truth. Since drishti is such a rare occurrence, the need for praxis and rhythm, consistent, unfailing, and unflinching. It is through praxis that life is divinized in the spirit of Sri Aurobindo's All Life is Yoga. And to again quote him, the base of a being is in matter, its not is in mentality, its escape into divine bliss. Our aim as human beings must be to rise from the pure idea into the divine bliss, and there, freed from mental egoism and vital and material limitations, spiritualize and beautify our whole existence from the base to the summit. Unquote. Therefore, coming back to what the Paramacharya is speaking about and connecting it to all of this, we realize that in order to clean the mirror of our mind, in order to clear the chitta, the consciousness, it is praxis that provides meaning to what appears to an utterly meaningless existence. If one is born only to die, then why be born at all? When people in corporate circles speak of finding meaning and purpose, they're speaking of purpose and meaning only in the ephemeral and fleeting material world, without pausing to ask if there is more to life than just the material. It is because there is no divinity in work that it appears a chore. And therefore, the first step that needs to be taken is to see how we can clean the chitta, the consciousness of the impurities that it is layered with. And for that to happen, it's critical that we start to practice. And when we say practice, it means practicing Dharma. This concludes episode 5 of this podcast. Thank you.